the four lenses. What I'm going to help you do with this stream is I'm going to help you shift between different lenses, different ways to see, perceive, experience. This is where the vast majority of people are stuck. They're only able to wear one lens, and that lens is personhood. Think about it. If you're talking to somebody and all they know how to do is talk about business, how annoying is it when all they do is talk about stocks and money and entrepreneurship and marketing and sales, and they have no idea about emotional intelligence. They have no idea about nature, about biology. They have no idea about the kingdom of God within their own heart and within everyone's heart. They only know how to wear one lens. It's just a business lens. Now, what if they were also able to wear the science lens? And what if they were able to wear the spirituality lens? Now you see where I'm going. The more lenses you can wear, the more of a chameleon you are. The more you're like a Jedi. The more you are like Joseph in the coat of many colors. The more you have precision with creating awakening around the planet. Be a Jack or a Jane of many trades. Know how to navigate the entire possibility space of conversations. And so here, when most people are stuck with wearing the person lens, they don't know how to get out of the person lens. They're stuck in it. Very much where I was as well, stuck in being just a person. And it's so fascinating because you're introduced to concepts like source, aka the Big Bang. You're introduced to concepts like this, but you never shift your identity to it. So you never actually put on the lens because you never shift your identity. Or for example, the universe, you're taught about it, but you never shift your identity to it. So you never actually put on the lens. And then, of course, the most subtle, because this is the hardest pop, this is the hardest shift to make in lenses. The hardest shift to make in lenses is from the person to awareness. By far the hardest. Because it's right there in front of your face. This is your awareness. And this is your awareness with an experience. So here you have an experience of the four lenses. That's what you're doing with watching this video. Now, if you pause the video and lock your screen, what will you have? You will have a blank screen, an unmodulated screen. This is the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is the blank sheet of paper. It is the dark, locked screen without any modulations. And then come all of the modulations. Here's all this writing on the sheet of paper. You're experiencing this, the four lenses video. The modulations on the screen, aka all this form that appears. The infinite creation has so many possibilities. All the different possibilities to color a sheet of paper, all of the different possibilities to modulate a screen, all of the different possibilities to make form, to make these costumes, all of the possibilities of dreams and civilizations and explorations. To make this shift from person to awareness, you have to quiet the mind. You have to use the breath to become aware of awareness itself, very subtly. Another trick to do is to train yourself to perceive from your eyes. Like your eyes are big ping pong balls. And really focus on perceiving from your eyes. Like ping pong balls, perceiving from your eyes. And then still yourself. Stop thinking about the past and the future. Just be present while looking with 2 ping pong balls. And then roll your ping pong balls around into the different corners. And become aware that you are looking. And if you have to hold your eyes open like this, it really accentuates the process when you kind of open up your eyes like this. It adds another depth to it. And so now you're rolling your eyes around and you're calming your mind and you're staying present. And what's happening is you're slowly becoming more and more aware of seeing itself. You're becoming aware of observation, of witnessing itself. What was present your whole life, but that you never gave attention to. And then as you do this process, you recognize that every single other human on this planet is also seeing with their eyes. And then what you recognize is that all of the power to see, the power to know, the power to experience is God. So we are all God, and this is all our creation. So you shift from being a person to being awareness. This is the biggest shift in lens. You have to know how to become more subtle. Because the person is it's very much like a meat suit. And so you're stuck in this body and you're perpetuating the idea that I am in this body. I am stuck in a physical vehicle body on a finite planet that is also physical. You have to shift from the physical to what's more subtle. And what's more subtle than objects? The subject. The subject. Look at yourself in the mirror. Just go to the mirror and open your eyes like this and look in the mirror. And look at yourself and look at the fact that you're looking at yourself. Become aware of the fact that you can see and observe. And notice how you are looking. Notice how you are observing. You are literally observing the ability to observe. Think about that. When you look at a mirror, you are observing the ability to observe. So you are aware of the fact that you're aware. So go to a mirror and look at the mirror like your life depends on it. Look at the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror like your life depends on it. And keep looking at yourself. Perpetually. Daily. Look at yourself. Keep looking at yourself. Keep looking at the very pupil in the center of your eye. Look at the pupil and wonder, might that very pupil in the center of my eye be the same observer that is in the center of everyone else's eye? Now you're getting closer to source. So when you get to the pop from person to awareness, that's already huge. Again, you're now become more subtle. You've become aware of the subject. You've become aware of what is formless. This is form. Subject is formless. Okay, that's already a big pop. Now, this next pop is into source, which would be, like we were describing, you have to become aware of what gave birth to you. No, you did not come from your mom, who came from her 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 mom. Just go all the way up the great chain of being. Go all the way to source. Everything comes from the same source. Everything comes from the same Big Bang. Everything comes from the same nothingness. Everything arose from nothingness and returns to nothingness. Not only the entire creation, but every single appearance in the creation arises and dissolves. Arise and dissolve, arise and dissolve, arise and dissolve, arise and dissolve. Perpetually. Arise and dissolve, arise and dissolve. Just like this. Sharpie arose, dissolved. I turn my head, and that dissolves. Those go like this. Everything is in this very emptiness, arising and passing. Just go to the very pupil at the center of your eye. That's when this big shift is happening from awareness to source, as you become more and more subtly aware that awareness itself is shared. The same black hole that is at the center of my eye is at the center of your eye, and that is the very black hole from which we originated from, and from which everything goes back to, and from which the next exploration will happening, and that they've been happening eternally. And that every single perception, thought, sensation, object, experience arises and then disappears into. That is what we mean by source. So now you become aware of the lens of awareness, which is the subject, which is way more subtle than the physical person. So again, you can think of this being the most physical. This is the most downstream. The person is the most downstream. And what we're asking you to do is to shift your lens of perception upstream. Go all the way to your source. If you don't take your identity from personhood to source, you will forever be ignorant. This is the truth about duality. This is the truth about ignorance and knowledge. Avidya and vidya. The way to taste and unite with the knowledge that's already around your neck is to become aware of awareness, become aware of the formless, become aware of the subject itself, become aware that that is shared, that is God, and that it's all the same source. It arises from and goes back to the same emptiness. It's the very source, the very emptiness that gives rise to awareness and to realities. So you can go, again, this is most downstream, this is most physical, and we're asking you to go most upstream. And when you go most upstream, you get to your source, and you recognize that your truest nature is the fact that your identity is the source that makes awareness and realities, all of this infinite creation. And so now we'll put on the lens of all that is. So one of the core reasons why the fourth lens is all that is because you have to go all the way to your source. You have to go all the way upstream to your source first. And these are the pops that you experience. You go from the physical, contracted identity of a person, and you pop into the more formless subject of awareness, popping into it being impersonal, for that being God. And then you pop again into the very fact that I am the source of even awareness, of even God, of even the shared witnessing of infinite creation. And then what happens is, as you identify with nothingness, you identify with emptiness, you identify with the very space of all possible phenomena. So now, what is your identity? Okay, I am the emptiness, the spaciousness of all possible phenomena. Okay, so that's your truest nature. Great. So you went all the way from person to that. And then what do we ask you to do? We ask you to put on this fourth lens, which is all that is. So what we're asking you to do is we're asking you to put on the lens of seeing the entire universe at play with itself. So what you did is you are the source of the universe at play with itself. So your nature is the source of infinite creation, and this is one example of your infinite creation at play with itself. So we're asking you to put on the lens of all that is. Because what happens is when you put on the lens of all that is, you're no longer the person. You become the entire universe at play with itself. We're asking you to become the way that God sees you. Stop affiliating yourself with the person identity. We're asking you to become the entire universe at play with itself. Rather than being your name, which you were indoctrinated into when you were born, become the very essence of life itself. Become the very creationary force itself. Become the Big Bang and the universe at play with itself, exploring. Become aware of the very same shared observer among all 8 billion of us that is witnessing from different perspectives this beautiful dreamed creation. And when you put on this lens of all that is, you begin seeing there's no separation. So you recognize that since we all come from the same source, we all share our awareness, this is all one intelligence at play with itself, all that is, there's no separation. Now the only thing I can do is become a steward or a shepherd for the creation awakening to its true nature. That's what we're asking you to do. We are literally asking you to give your life, to surrender your life to becoming a steward and a shepherd for the awakening of the creation, because then you are serving God, you are serving the creation, and you are not serving your distorted, deluded, contracted personhood identity. And that's why you have to be able to navigate out of this lens. This is like only knowing how to talk about business. It is so annoying when somebody only knows how to talk about business. All they do is talk about marketing. All they do is talk about entrepreneurship. All they do is talk about sales, stocks, money. They have no idea how to be emotionally intelligent. They have no idea how to talk about science, how to talk about spirituality. That's what we're asking you to do, is learn how to put on other lenses, get out of personhood and learn how to put on the first upgraded lens of awareness. Go upstream to your source. You're intoxicated by the downstream illusion of identity with personhood and with only finity and physicalism, that You have no interest even in the question, who am I? What is my source? Might I be God? Might I be infinite? Ask yourself those questions. That is the process of self-inquiry. Atma Vichara. That very self-inquiry process will take you to the answer. It will take you to the realizations of directly experiencing yourself as the formless subject of awareness. Practice these activities like the ping pong ball exercise and slowing yourself down to becoming really hyper present of awareness of the subject, of the witness, of observation, and how it's shared among us. And hold your eyes open like this in the mirror as well, and take the time to really analyze yourself in the mirror. Become aware that you are looking at a creature that has the power to know. You are looking at the power to know. You are looking at the power to know. When you become aware that you're looking at the power to know, you become aware of God. The power to know is God. But you've been brushing off the idea of the power to know your entire life. You've atrophied the muscle to know the power to know. Because you've been deluded into only focusing on objects and experiences, trying to extract peace and happiness from the creation, rather than investigate who the fuck is the observer itself, who is the subject itself, because the subject is God. And then you recognize it's the same subject of awareness in everybody. And then you stop arguing with God. And you settle into the knowledge of being infinite. And this just being one of our exploratory creations. So we're asking you to be able to navigate across these lenses and to give up your person identity so that you can actually be able to navigate the lens of awareness, navigate the lens of source, navigate the lens of all that is. Stop being just oriented in one subject, like business. It's like the vast majority of civilization only knows how to talk about money and social media. We're asking you to learn how to talk about consciousness. We're asking you to learn how to talk about God. We're asking you to learn how to talk about metaphysics. We're asking you to learn how to talk about nothingness. We're asking you to learn how to talk about emptiness. We're asking you to learn how to talk about all of this being the universe playing with itself, dancing with itself, for you to shift your identity to being life itself rather than being a person. You have to learn how to shift between these lenses. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck here for your whole life. And you're going to perpetuate suffering for yourself and for those near you and for the world. And then you'll get reborn. Liberate yourself from the cycle of pain and pleasure by navigating these other lenses of awareness, source, and all that is. Then throughout your whole life, what will happen is you will feel peace. You will feel joy. You will feel stewardship and service and shepherding of the creation awakening. And you won't be stuck in the cycle of pain and pleasure, birth and death, birth and death. but rather you will know your true nature as the very source beyond birth and death that gives rise to all of this infinite creation at play with itself. Okay, that's all. These are the 4 lenses. Learn how to shift yourself out of the contracted person identity lens and pick up the subtle lens of awareness, the subject itself, and pick up what is the source of the subject itself. What is the source of reality itself? Become aware of that and become aware of everything as one intelligence at play with itself and serve that one intelligence. Navigate between these lenses and win the game of life. Navigate between these lenses and win the game of life. That is what is meant in the mystic traditions when people say you have to die before you die. It means you have to kill the person before the person dies. Before you're 80 years old and you die, what's going to happen is when you're 20 or 30 years old, or whenever you awaken, the person will die because you will now become awareness. You will become source. You will become the entire universe at play with itself. You will no longer be a separate finite person. Navigate yourself out of this lens. It's like you're only talking about money and social media. And we're asking you to learn how to talk about consciousness, awareness. We're asking you to learn how to talk about metaphysics, around God, around source, nothingness, emptiness, the true nature of reality, the universe at play with itself. And then what will happen is you will no longer be as interested in this lens. It will naturally dissolve. The only time you will be interested in this lens is when you behave from these lenses, teaching other people of this lens how to awaken. Go all the way to your source. Go all the way upstream. Know your true nature. Serve the creation. Stop being a contracted person identity that is arguing with God and trying to extract peace and happiness from the creation. Learn to navigate between these lenses. Infinite adoration. Thank you.